Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Spilling the Tea on Being Anxiety Free. I hope you're well. I want to talk today about meditation, and the title being Meditation Ain't Sitting in a Corner for Hours. Now, do not hear me wrong. If your business is teaching people how to meditate for hours, and that is a business model that is at your heart and the center of your being, and that's what you're here to teach, don't mishear me. This work is for people who have a brain like mine, an overthinking brain, that the idea of sitting down for hours at a time just being with your thoughts, you would rather stick pins in your eyes. Now, my meditation master would argue that we are exactly the kind of people that should be sitting in a corner and meditating for hours. Fine. I'm at a point now where that is actually something I do. I meditate for hours, and it is in the main pretty easy to do. There are days when it's not. My humanness is loud and I don't force it. But at the beginning of this journey especially, and there are moments in between it all where that idea sounds hellish. So if the idea to you, if somebody's saying meditation isn't sitting for hours and that makes you want to go, yes, then this is the episode for you. When I first embarked on this journey, I always like to go back to that story because it's incomprehensible when I look at what I'm doing now in comparison, and it was only a really short amount of time ago. But when I look back to the space when I realised that, oh my God, life isn't working out the way that I would really like it to be. And then I started getting active. Who has been in the position when it's even more frustrating? Because not only now you're blind to the chaos that we cause ourselves for a very long time until we start to be like, oh, life isn't going that great. I've been hiding. And then we start to, and then we're like, oh, but I don't know how to do it differently. That phase of it all sucks. It's rubbish. So I was kind of in that phase of being like, okay, well, the way I'm doing life isn't working for me. I want to do it differently. I'm trying therapy. I'm trying to meditate. I'm trying to read. I'm trying to do all this stuff to make it better. And it's just not. So I didn't know what to do. And typically I just went in harder and I kept going to counselling, I kept going to therapy, I kept trying to meditate, and it wasn't working. And I was like, well, this isn't it. I had this profoundly enlightening moment just as I was walking into the woods. If you follow me on my stories at More Than This by Emma Upton on Instagram, you will know that I spend a lot of time in the woods now. And I was walking into the woods, and it was this moment of despair of like, I'm doing everything. I am trying to do this differently, but it's not working. Why? And it was like this. I literally, it took me off my feet. It took me to my knees, and I just knelt down in the woods, sobbing, open mouth, dribble kind of sob, just sobbing, because I couldn't comprehend what was being delivered to me. It was this sensory experience, this madness of lights and of colours and of smells, and this overwhelming sensory experience that I couldn't perceive in the 3D. It was happening internally. It was very bizarre. And it was from that moment that the 7 steps were formulated. That's when the Fine Formula first started to come into being, and I first started to practice it in my life. The 7th step is Surrender Sunday, but the 6th step is Saturday sitting. Every day has a step, and I'm all about the breath. I am all about meditation. I am all about coming out of the conscious mind. The only way that we get to know who we're here to be, what we're here to do, so it gets to flow through us, and we stop being in our brain and we start tapping into the codes of our DNA and creating the unique body of work that we're here to. A huge element of that is breath work. And I say here in the Saturday sitting introduction, breath is the path to your paradise. Breathwork is the most essential component to transforming consciousness. There is no denying it. Here's my little alpha alpaca. Teach it how to get out of the beta brain waves, which is our thinking conscious brain, into the alpha brain waves. And I always imagine an alpaca when I was doing this being like, be alpaca, like gliding around, just having the best time. You know, Mrs. Hinch and her alpacas. I'm like, yes, they are the vibe. That kind of energy is essential for us coming out of our thinking brain and being able to land inside our body, inside the codes of our DNA for our work to be able to come through. But we don't have to sit for hours on end to access it. The most profound moments, like you would have never ever in a gazillion years known that that moment in the woods was going to happen to me. I wasn't sitting there meditating for hours, I was walking. What I started to realise was, it isn't so much the sitting down, it's the getting out of your thoughts. So I play this game with myself, and this is my most powerful kind of meditation. Like, steal this, use this in your life. I play this game where I watch what my conscious brain is telling me to do, and I don't listen. Literally, that's it. So I was busy. If I could define myself in words, it would be busy. I would always have a lot going on. I prided myself on how busy I was, how much I had going on all the time, how rushed I was, how I was always trying to get everything done. Like, I really firmly identified with that story and that belief. And I started to realise that that wasn't serving me. I was just worn out all of the time. So I would notice where my brain would be spinning that mantra of being rushed. We need to rush through this. A really prominent time of recognizing this was when I had our twins. We had babies, we had twin babies. My husband worked away a lot, and I was a teacher. I was going back to teaching after having maternity off and having the pregnancy and all that jazz. It was a busy time by most people's measures. And I noticed how busy I was getting a kick out of how busy I was being. I was like, oh, do I want to be busy? My brain's like, yes, that's your identity. Like, we're a busy person. Let's go. So I started to notice this. And I started in those moments, this is the inner power, when I could hear my brain saying, come on, rush. We've got to sterilise the bottles. We've got to get the babies in bed. We've got to sterilise the bottles. You've got to get your schoolwork done. You've got to get to bed so you have some sleep. So then we're going to do Groundhog Day all over again tomorrow. Like, go, go, go. And that's how I was living my life. And I was noticing this. And I was like, oh, hang on. I don't want this to be my life anymore. That want... I can work with anybody that has that want. You can check. My whole life changed because of that. I didn't want that to be my reality. I didn't want that to be my 3D anymore. So I decided, right, I don't want that to be my reality. It was still there. I built a lifetime of stories around how I am that busy person, and that's what makes me who I am. But that want was huge. So I started to recognize when my brain wanted to enroll me in those stories, and I'd be washing the bottles, and I'd be like, come on, let's get this done so we can, and I'd be like, whoa, I would hear my conscious brain. What is meditation? Actively going against the conscious brain. And so I would stand there like, you know, Gandalf when he's got his spear in the darkness and he holds it down in front of that demigorgon dragon thing. You shall not pass. It's like that. Awakening that inner power is in that moment of being like, you are telling me, brain, and this is how nuts my life is. That's why the characters help me. Francis is telling me, Bob is telling me, and Toad is telling me. You three are telling me I need to rush to feel enough in this existence. I need to be busy to feel like I'm serving my role, and I don't want to anymore. You shall not pass. And I took my time, and then my brain would go, oh my God, you're taking so much more time. We've got so much to do. What are you doing to us? And so I'd go slower, being like, shh, Francis, shh, Toad, shh, Bob. I hear you all. I'm not going to try and fight you away. You're stronger than me. But I hear you. And my choice is to actively not listen. That is my power. And every time I chose that, I awoke something deep inside me that got more powerful, that got louder until that conscious part that always had me feeding into these mantras and these stories that were just habit. We recognize and realize that those ways of being are just neurological habits. And when we can get that objective about them, we can start to choose into or out of them. I realized a lot of the patterns I was choosing into were not helping me. So yes, I love to sit now for hours in meditations. It's wild, the shit that happens to me. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm here for it. But the most profound moments that I have ever experienced have not been in those prolonged, elongated, like traditional forms of meditations. They have been in my everyday waking, breathing, moving existence, where I am noticing my conscious brain. I am noticing that trio of terror. I'm noticing Francis. I'm noticing Toad. I'm noticing Bob. I'm noticing them there and trying to drag me into that neurology that is so well established. And I'm saying no. And I'm actively doing something to stay in the moment that they are trying to rush me out of. How often do we get to the end of the day and we're like, well, that was a blink and I'm done. That was my life. And I refuse. No, I'm going to be present, and I am still human. We are all so human. We don't get to skip the human experience. We're going to skip parts of our life and be like, whoa, that was a bit of a, hang on, let me ground, let me land. But as many parts of our existence as humanly possible, we get to awaken that inner power and say, you know what, right here, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna be present. A really simple and easy way, as we're harnessing that awareness of that trio who are always bouncing around in our conscious brain trying to disturb us from finding that inner power. A really good way is to intentionally go out for a walk and take so much longer than you want to. Like, you know, you want to just go out, get the exercise done, come back, crush work, and say I'm going out for a walk. And I'm going to walk slower than my mind wants me to. And it's going to race to all the things that I should be doing right now. And I'm going to want to pick out my phone and get some of them done along the way. And we all do that, because that's okay as well. The woods are my office. But intentionally make this walk all about being aware of this moment. And being aware of your brain wanting to rush you through it and being like, why? I'm falling back into the moment of right now, because that's all that ever exists, and we miss it. And when we can practice doing this in moments of existence, our brain, that overthinking part of us that just wants to railroad us through to the grave, it gets the idea. It'll listen. It wants a master. That's what the conscious brain wants. It wants a master. It wants to be obedient. It wants to make you pleased. It's like a dog with its waggy tail. It's just got the wrong signal. You get to be the master of the conscious brain. Then you can sit for hours. And meditation is like, oh, how long have I been out? Where have I been? Like, what have I been doing? But we don't have to force ourselves into those places, because all that we do is sit there and overthink everything. What we get to do is still live and be in our lives and be a present participant in our lives, but just with heightened awareness. And the more that we do that, the more we tell the trio to shut the funk up. And the more we do that, the more inner power we have over ourselves. Then we can go about creating our destiny. We know from doing this is a huge part of knowing who we are, who you are truly here to be, what you're truly here to do, your destiny, so that then it gets to flow through you. You know what the work is, you know who you are, you know what the work is, so it gets to flow out of you. And it feels like, I love this saying, it feels like eating cake and drinking tea. Like, I know it sounds really twee, but that's the energy of it. When you dedicate yourself to figuring out who you are, which I still don't know who I am. I know I'm the best time figuring it out. But when we're diligent with figuring out who we are, you know, we all want to know what our purpose is and what we're here to do. Like, and then I feel fulfilled. The answer to that lies in finding who you are. When we know who we are, then the clarity on what we're here to do comes through. Then it flows through. When we get it in that order, it's like drinking tea and eating cake and drinking tea. It's easy. So the next time your brain is trying to convince you, I need to go and sit down for 3 hours and do meditation, remind yourself, hang on, do I? Or do I get to be present? Do I get to be aware in this human existence? And do I get to just slow things down and enjoy the moment of right now? I will challenge you and your brain, and I will challenge me and my brain to go away today and do something slower and watch the resistance and smile. And I'll see you and you'll see me, and we'll go, there it is. Let's go. We're here for more. We're here for so much more. And this is just the beginning. Happy Saturday.